He's back! So if you watch my video on houseplants that are way underrated, then you are familiar with this guy. This, of course, is my ornamental banana tree. More specifically, I believe this variety to be the Zabrania red ornamental banana tree. Of course, there are a ton of banana tree varieties out there. They will have slightly different care requirements depending on which one it is, but if you have one of the ornamental variety, they will be all about the same. Now, I'm just going to leave this guy down here for the majority of the video. He is very heavy, and basically the only place for me to have him is up there or up here, because trust me, I am not strong enough to hold this guy the entire video. So hopefully you don't mind that. You're just getting this little look of him. But in my opinion, oh god, this is just one of, no, not one of, this is the most gorgeous plant I own. This plant is my pride and joy. I always had this funny question that I play in my head, which was that if my apartment was burning down to the ground, which one of my plants would I grab if I could only grab one? And the answer to that question was always my fiddle leaf fig, but more recently, this plant has become a consideration for what plant that might be. So likely I would have to grab this plant and my fiddle leaf fig, like double arming them out of the house like Superman. I don't know who like saves people out of burning buildings besides firefighters. Okay, anyway, to get on with the point, today we are going to be teaching you everything you need to know to care about your ornamental banana plant. So if you have one or if you want to have one, then stay tuned and I'll tell you how to keep this guy happy and healthy. So one of the most striking features about this plant are obviously these gigantic leaves. And the cool thing about these plants, why they're called plants, and you might be thinking, well, isn't this a banana tree? Actually, no, it's not a tree. So let me bring this up here and we can check out the stem. Of course, I have him staked up and you'll know why in a minute. But if you look at this stem right here, it's not a tree at all. Actually, what the stem is just a combination of all the leaves, the stalks of the leaves. So it's not quite as strong as traditional, like barky tree trunk would be. It's really just this pretty soft, delicate bundle of leaves in here. So if you do have one of these and they are bigger, you are going to want to stake this guy out for some support. And if it's completely normal, if you have a leaf dieback, you'll kind of get these pieces like I have here, and you can actually just kind of pull them off of that stake and just pull them right off, and it's just a dead leaf. So very cool. As time goes on and this plant does get bigger, of course the stalk will get bigger and it will be more thick and hardy and just support the plant, because obviously it has more weight to bear. But in the beginning stages, this will be pretty delicate. Of course, you don't want to like come in here if you're handling the plant and squeeze it too hard, anything like that. You do just want to be delicate with this stalk. Okay, set this guy back down. So as for lighting, if you look online and read the requirements for these banana plants, you will see some things that will tell you that they don't need that much light. And to a degree, that's true. They don't need, a bright direct light. However, and if you are giving it too much light, you may start to notice that the coloration variegation, this one has kind of this red coloration on it, but you will start to notice that this can potentially fade over time, so that can be a sign that it is getting too much light. Now, do note that the leaves will naturally just fade as they age a little bit, but that can be one sign that it's getting too much light. But on the other hand, it does need a fair amount. Think about the fact that it's an incredibly fast grower, and when you're looking at this leaf, you have to think about the fact that this leaf needs to produce all this energy to create these giant stalks. So it is going to need a decent amount of light to do that. I personally have this plant placed kind of sandwiched in the corner where two windows meet. It's above the window line, so it gets a really nice amount of light every day. Of course, if you are putting these guys outside, you're going to want to give him a little bit of shade so you're not overdoing it. Okay, I think we've beat a dead horse talking about lighting. Let's move on to water. Now these guys are going to be very thirsty plants, and they're also going to be very heavy feeders. Again, this goes back to the fact that when you're looking at these leaves, this plant for me creates one of these new leaves every probably 2 weeks. So when you're thinking that it's generating this much growth every 2 weeks, it's gonna need a lot of water to drink. It's gonna need a lot of nutrients to produce this gigantic thing. So as soon as you start to notice that the soil is drying out, go in with water, and trust me, your banana plant will thank you for it. Additionally, if this plant is not getting enough water, what you might start to notice happening is it will get these crispy brown edges. So just keep that in mind. On the flip side, if you are giving it too much water, it can develop something that looks similar to this, but it will be more yellow. So as always, don't let your plant live in a swamp. Give it good drainage, but it is going to like a lot of water. Now, as for humidity levels, again, if you look online, you'll see kind of mixed reviews here. Some places will say that they don't need humidity. Other places will say that they like a lot of humidity. Personally, for me, I find that this plant does just fine in my house without that much humidity. I haven't really run into that much of a problem with him. Of course, like I said, there are some of these little crispy edges on there, but for the most part, he's overall happy and healthy. I remember when I had purchased this plant, I had posted about it in one of my Facebook groups for plants. Now, I was really excited about this plant. I was so enthusiastic. In fact, I even had mentioned that I thought that this was indeed the most beautiful plant in the world. Now, I of course had a lot of people agree, because how could you not agree? But I also had a lot of people who were from states like Florida, where it's very humid, mention that these are, just everywhere outside. You see them all the time. They're very common. So with that said, the fact that people are growing these outside in places like Florida leads me to believe that if you have a very humid environment, they will also do incredibly well there. As I had mentioned, this plant is an incredibly fast grower for me. Lift him up one more time. I'm really getting my workout for the day. You may be able to see it right here, but he has a good leaf coming out. So when those new leaves unfurl, they do unfurl from the center part right out here, and it'll start out this little tiny string coming out of your plant, and then all of a sudden it'll be a big shoot, and one day the leaf will just unfurl. And the day that they unfurl, they're so bright, they're so vibrant, they're so beautiful, and it's really just like Christmas morning every time that I get a new leaf on this plant. Now, when I first bought this plant, I had got it from Home Depot, and it was the only one there. So I didn't have the choice of, buying the best looking plant in the market. It was the only one, and I was so amazed with it. It was only $28, so I scooped it up right away. But kind of like this leaf looks right now, where it has, broken off pieces and this tattered end. That's really how all the leaves were at that time. So when I was first having it, I was noticing my leaves were dying back. They weren't doing super well. And I was worried that it was never going to get more than a couple leaves at a time. Slowly but surely, I have been increasing the number of leaves that I've been able to keep on this plant. I believe that has just been coming from keeping it with consistent watering. I have to imagine probably, between its travels from wherever it came from and Home Depot, it probably was not getting the best care, which is probably why it was a little stressed out. But as time has been going on, I have been noticing that these leaves do seem to be staying longer for me. So if you're having that problem at first, don't freak out. It probably just needs a little more TLC, and it will perk right back up. Now, of course, this is an ornamental banana tree, so in some cases, these plants will put out fruits, but they are not typically edible. However, interestingly, in some countries, this stalk is actually used for grain. So they'll take it, they'll cut it down, and they'll mill it up and use it for all kinds of stuff. So even though traditionally we don't think of this as a crop plant, it's more of an ornamental one, there are places where this plant is used for those purposes. Now, finally, if you are more familiar with the variegated banana, which, girl, those go for an obscene amount of money, let me just tell you. But because of how big they are, they can be really hard to transport. So something that you'll see that's very common is they'll actually take the leaves and they'll cut them all off before transport, and they just ship out the stem and the roots. Now, the great thing about this is because the leaves do grow so fast and they can handle it, you don't have a problem with doing that. It will completely regenerate. So if you run into an issue where all your leaves are damaged and you think all hope is lost, as long as those roots are okay, you are in business, you can completely cut the stalk back and it will keep producing more leaves from there. So that is everything I have to talk about today in regards to this ornamental banana plant. If you had questions or comments that you wanted answered that I did not address, please drop them in the comments down below and I will do my very best to get back to them in a timely manner. Don't forget to give this video a like if you learned something today, and hit that subscribe button for more care videos and other fun plant related videos in the future. Thank you guys so much for checking this one out, and I hope to see you in the next one.